Hello, my name is Adam McNall, and I'm doing my final project on the movie 2012. I'm going to talk about the bad science and one good thing, one good part of science that I found in the movie. The areas I'm going to cover is like the opening scene, the solar eruption, neutrinos, geology, Yellowstone and its eruption, the Richter scale, San Andreas Fault, San Francisco going into the ocean, the tsunami, and how Africa was lifted at the end. Let's start back at the opening scene. The opening scene showed the planets lining up, which in 2012 the planets aren't actually supposed to line up, and they're not supposed to line up for a while. And the sun is supposed to be in the center, which isn't supposed to happen until 2300. So it's ways off yet. So they got that part wrong, but it's okay. Let's talk about the solar eruption, because this is one of the things that they actually got right in this movie. Because the solar eruption, not a solar flare, is when the sun erupts stuff towards the earth, and this would cause reactions on earth. But this would lead me into my neutrinos discussion. Neutrinos are these neutrally charged particles that can penetrate different things with no problem. In the movie, they say that the neutrinos are actually getting positively charged by the solar eruption, which cannot happen because these particles are neutrally charged. They cannot gain a positive charge and heat up the Earth's center like it happened in the movie. Then we go into the geology of this movie, where when the earthquake hits, it shows all these earth cracks going all over the place, following the people slowly. When an earthquake hits, it's just not like a little area, then it starts going out. It hits really quick, and then over an extended period of time. It's not a slow reaction, it's a very quick. So the cracks would have been really fast, and they wouldn't have been able to split buildings in half, because on the West Coast these buildings are quote unquote earthquake proof, which means that they can withstand certain amounts of shaking from an earthquake, so that the buildings might actually be totaled themselves but actually do not collapse. So this would be unplausible, which leads me to the Richter scale. The Richter scale is the scale of judging how devastating an earthquake actually is. And the only way that we can actually determine what's the magnitude of the earthquake is actually after the earthquake itself. In the movie, it showed government officials looking at computer screens saying that it was a 10.9 earthquake, which cannot be determined until after the earthquake, and it would take several days for earthquake analysis to come up with an actual magnitude for this earthquake. So that's another problem that we have with the movie. Then we go with the San Andreas Fault. the San Andreas Fault, which is a sliding plate, not a subduction. So when it says that it's moving, that the San Andreas Fault, let me see if I can find the quote exactly here. Is shifting is actually not a false statement, because the San Andreas Fault is actually shifting, but like this movie is assuming that tectonic plates do not exist because of the liquefaction of the soils. So they're almost playing as like the earth is just this one giant goob, and like it can shift any which way with no repercussions. Hence having San Francisco sliding into the ocean, which cannot happen because San Francisco is right on the San Andreas Fault. So it would slide away and wouldn't subduct down because it's not at a subduction zone. Which leads us to the earthquakes themselves and the tsunami that it created. The tsunami is just a giant wave of water, well, a series of waves of water that just go inland. And the epicenters of these earthquakes did not make sense because all the earthquakes were basically onshore somewhere in the world, and then it created these giant tsunamis that would hit the Himalayas in India, wiping out populations like crazy because they were so massively high, almost a mile high wave, which is impossible because most tsunamis are 10 to 30 feet tall on their waves, because when the earthquake happens out in the middle of the ocean, it creates a tsunami, which is a shallow wave going into the ocean. So it actually doesn't start bulging up until it actually hits ground, which would bulge up the water.